Now we're going to take a quick detour because we have a perfect example here of something that could be using generics. And if you're not very familiar with generics, don't worry. They're very simple and you've actually been using them quite a bit. Often people don't realize that they're using them because they've never created a new one and don't really know how it works. It's actually super simple, so we're going to do that right now. Let's dive back into our code and take a look at the grab bag example. So go find that code window right here. There we go. And we've got our grab bag right now that takes a set of transforms, an array of them, and then shuffles them up and gives us back a transform. What if we wanted to do this with game objects though, or sprites, or items, or weapons, or any other type of object in our game? Well, we could copy and paste this and just replace transform with game object or with whatever thing it is that we wanted to grab. But there's an easier solution, and that's the generics that I was just mentioning. So to use generics, all we need to do is tell it that we want to use generics, really. We give it a less than and then a type declaration or a type name. I'm going to put T here because that's the most common. And we're just about done. Now, this isn't going to allow me to pass in any type of object because transform grab bag still takes an array of transforms as a parameter. So I'd want to change that. Instead of taking an array of transforms, I'm going to want to take in an array of T, or whatever the type is that's specified by the thing that's using this grab bag. So let's put a T here and notice that we don't have an error. And if I put my mouse over it, that you are seeing that these are referencing the same thing. Let's zoom it in a little bit. You can see these T's are the same type. So whatever type I declare for my grab bag will be the type of object that I have to pass into here. Now that obviously causes an issue here on line 12 because the transforms that I'm passing in are of some type. We don't know what it is, just type T. And the transforms that we're assigning to are an array of actual transform. So the first thing I want to do before we change this type is rename some of these variables. Instead of calling these transforms, let's call them underscore things. Because there could be any number of things, they have different types of things, and they're not going to be transforms. And if I have the word transform everywhere, it's going to get confusing. For shuffled transforms, let's call it shuffled things. And then for the parameter here, I'll just call this things as well. And I think I'll rename the method here to be shuffle things. I want to get rid of transform as much as possible, except for in the types, because we still have to do some actual code changes for the types. Oh, the last thing we have here is last transform. Let's rename this to last thing. Whatever that thing is. Now we'll scroll up here and we're going to fix the error. So on line 12, we're assigning an array of T, or whatever it is, to an array of transforms. That won't work. So we're going to need to change this transform here to be T as well. Very simple, right? All we're doing is replacing transform with T, or whatever the type is. Remember, it doesn't have to be coming from a transform. This could have been something that worked on game objects, on sprite renderers, or any other thing that we want to randomly pick from. Okay. So we've got T there, we've got T here, we've got T there. It's looking good so far. If we scroll down to our grab method though, we've got an error on 26 that it's trying to return back a transform, but shuffled things is an array of T's. So we're going to replace transform with T. And remember again, T is not a specific class. It's not a thing that exists yet. It's just the placeholder that we've declared right here. T is the placeholder for whatever class we decide to use this with, or whatever class the consumer of this class decides to use it with. All right, let's go down to shuffle things. In shuffle things, we actually have an error that we're going to have to do something a little bit more complicated with, but it really ties in perfectly with generics. On line 38, we check to see if we're past the number of things and if the thing at index 0 is equal to our last thing. And this doesn't work. And the reason for it is that we can't apply, well, here it says you can't apply operands of type T and transform. So we can change this transform here to be T. That will get rid of one error down below, but this still doesn't get rid of the error because now it says can't be applied for operands of type T and T. Really helpful, right? Well, the problem here is that it doesn't know what T is, and T could be some type of object that can't be compared, that can't just be compared with a double equals. So we need to go up to the top and tell it that T is always going to be a class, because it is always going to be a class in our situation. So to do that, we just put where T colon, and you can see it's auto-completing class. Now, this doesn't have to just be class. It could be where T is a mono behavior. We could put like mono behavior. Or if we had some inheritance chain where we had like NPCs that inherited, we got dragons that inherit from NPCs or something, we could have where it's an NPC and it only randomizes things that are NPCs or derived from there. For now though, we just want any type of class because this is randomization. We really probably could just randomize just about anything, randomly order just about anything. So there we go. We've got our shuffle things method. It should be working as a generic. With the last thing I want to do to it is rename it. Instead of being transform grab bag, let's just do Control R, and rename it to be a grab bag. Now it's just a generic grab bag that should rename our file as well. Let's go check the file. Yep, we got it renamed. It's now moved to be grab bag, and the old one is now marked as moved. And then the last thing we've got to do is actually hook it up. So we're going to use this grab bag. If I try to do a build, I should see an error because it's trying to reference it without the type. Right here on line 38, we have a grab bag that it's being assigned a new transform grab bag. So first thing we got to do is delete the word transform there and create a new grab bag, but we also have to specify the type. And here, remember, we're using transforms, so we'll just use transform. And then we'll do the same right here. And we're good. So we should be able to build and save. Now, one optimization we could make here is we could maybe not pass in the transforms or not do transforms and do a grab bag of vector 3s that just returns back those vector 3s. But I generally prefer to stick with the transforms a lot of time, especially when I'm earlier in development. I want to be able to move things around at runtime and play with stuff. So just an idea there, but I wanted to make sure that you know it's there. So think about generics when you're writing code. When you write something that you want to reuse and you find that you're like copying and pasting and just changing a couple things in a class, that's a perfect opportunity for generics. So keep an eye out for options where they make sense, and just remember that they're there. All right, let's jump back into Unity. Oh, and also remember that you use them all the time. Get component in children, get component in parent, find objects of type. All of those use generics, and a lot of other built-in Unity methods do as well. So say we added generic grab bag, and we'll check that in.